Perfect.
Okay.
Okay, we're on YouTube also, it says.
We are,
What I got.
yes, we are.
Yeah. Okay, I will convene this meeting of the Executive and Legislative Nominations Committee to order for our public hearing that we will hear Angel Quiros Jr. of Windsor to be the Commissioner of the Department of Corrections. I'd ask committee members, most of whom are not on mute, probably put themselves on mute so that we don't have any background noise. Thank you, everyone. And Commissioner, good morning. Glad that you're here. I'm looking around because you just moved.
Morning.
Somewhere. Oh, here they are on the screen.
Senator Duffy, you're on mute.
Yeah, I just, thank you. I don't know how that happened. Thank you. We'll get started here. And let's see, Commissioner, if you could just raise your right hand. Thank you. Do you promise, swear, or affirm to tell us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
It is, and it's customary when we begin these our hearings, we allow the nominee to make an introductory statement, and then we'll open it up for questions after that. So, sir, the floor is yours. And hopefully everybody on the in the committee received the testimony from the commissioner. Thank you, sir. Floor is yours.
Good morning, Senator Stuff, Ramika, Driscoll, and Kennedy, and the members of the Executive Legislative Nomination Committee. My name is Angel Quiros, and I am proud to be sitting here today as the Governor's Lamont appointee as the Department of Corrections' next commissioner. Before I share with the committee the current status of the agency and plans I have for the future, I want to provide a little bit more of my background. I grew up on Park Street in Hartford, just a few blocks from our capital. My father and my uncle owned a neighborhood grocery store where I saw firsthand the challenges of growing up in a struggling environment. I was fortunate. I had strong, supportive family who taught me the importance of community and of helping neighbors in need, but also one that supported my drive to excel. As a Buckley High School student, I was able to participate in Trinity's College Upper Bound Summer Program, which led me to becoming the first person in my family to graduate from college, earning my Bachelor's of Science degree in Human Service from Springfield College, a study choice that was entirely due to my upbringing and my desire to help the community, my community. It is also important for you to know that I have personal experience with the other side of the criminal justice system, as I have had justice-involved family members. Some had long stays in correctional custody, during which they dramatically turned their lives around and became outstanding and contributing Connecticut residents. Some, unfortunately, still continue to have contact with the criminal justice system and are struggling. Through this experience, while living my own journey on the other side of the correctional system, I have seen that strong family support, opportunities while incarcerated, education and a job, housing, and addressing health challenges can transform justice-involved people. I'm also aware of how important it is for one to have a personal commitment to change in order to succeed. As I sit here today, I'm beginning my 32nd year with this agency that I have invested my whole life in. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge the impact of my career and choices on my wife, Madi, my son Angel, the long hours, the holidays we delayed, the vacations we didn't take at the time, and they spent alone because the agency needed me enough to constrain any relationship. But they understand the commitment over the years and they have made that commitment their own, have supported me through every transition that I've saw. I would not be sitting here today without their ever-present love and support. My career path has given me the opportunities to move through the ranks from correction officers, lieutenant, captain, major, deputy warden, and warden of several facilities, including Northern and York, district administrators of both of our districts, and finally, Deputy Commissioner of Operation and Rehabilitative Service under former Commissioner Ron Cook. I have overseen the working of our prison units and dorms. I have led shifts. I have ran facilities. I have coordinated the operation of multiple facilities, and I have managed our tactical treatment and program division. I've been in charge of care of custody of female, males, youth, adults, and all those incarcerated prior to the sentencing, as well as those sentenced for the crime. I have seen the offender population grow rapidly and shrink significantly. I've seen our philosophy evolve from being tough on crime to a more holistic, thoughtful, restorative approach, and have been part of these changes our agency has gone through during the reform. I've seen the demands and qualifications of correctional staff adjust to reflect these changes. Everything that embodies correctional practice, both historical and current, I've lived. I have lived with it in the Connecticut Department of Correction. This agency is part of who I am, and I believe with all I am that I can lead this department through these future challenges and the evolutions that I know we can embark on. Today, the Department of Correction is in the midst of its first ever pandemic, a pandemic no correctional system in the world has ever dealt with. Since COVID struck our state 10 months ago, our staff have worked tirelessly to minimize exposures to the offender population and to our employees, to provide medical support for those that are symptomatic, and to release as many incarcerated individuals that are eligible who can safely return to the community in an effort to expand social distances in our facility. Last month, the Prison Policy Initiative reported Connecticut Department of Correction had the largest inmate population reduction of the 21 states which have readily available data. Our staff did this by being smart, dedicated, committed, hardworking, and releasing those individuals under our custody with sustainable reentry plan. We work with the Connecticut Coalition to End Homelessness to ensure that housing of these entering the community, and our parole division work with these individuals to avoid needless return to Department of Corrections custody. I cannot explain to you today how proud I am of the efforts of the men and the women of the Department of Correction during one of the most difficult times. So what's in for the future for the department? Once our staff and incarcerated population receive the COVID vaccination in the very near future, the pandemic is under control, I will be rolling out many changes to build on our previous administration and advance our agency. First, due to the dramatic reduction of individuals under our custody, it is my obligation to identify corresponding cost savings option. I intend to implement one or more facility closures to correspond with the reduction of population. This would have occurred sooner, but with our effort to ensure safety and mitigate the spread of COVID among our correctional population and our staff complement require that we utilize the facilities to provide as much social distancing our population as possible. Second, I will be reforming and enhancing our restrictive status program to reduce unnecessary restrictions while providing more rehabilitative programming in a manner that continues to prioritize the safety and security of our staff, incarcerated and the incarcerated population. Third, I will be partnering with the sister agency to identify, implement, and enhance educational and workforce training opportunities for our population, while actively engaging business and local communities to provide more employment opportunity for the returning citizens. As I have learned from my own upbringing, the importance of a holistical community engagement and individual success. Lastly, as I plan to continue developing the technology within our correctional facility, we've already seen benefit that these investments yield through recent launch of our video visitation and tablet program over the last few months. But I want to use the momentum that we have realized through these launches to expand and provide additional opportunities for our population. In the more than 50 years history of the Department of Correction, I believe this is one of the most exciting, dynamic times, and I am looking forward to and more than prepared for this challenge opportunity. Before I end my statement, yesterday, our Correctional Officers Union had a press release on their concern and their frustration where our staff members not receiving their vaccination. I'm here to report that starting Monday, February 1st, we will start vaccinating our staff members in the group 1B. We've partnered up with Griffin Hospital. We've collaborated with DPH, Controller's Office, and with the great leadership of Governor Lamont. He's allowed me to be on the forefront of organizing the rollout of a vaccination. So starting Monday at 7 correctional facilities, our staff in Group 1B will be receiving their vaccination. In addition to on Monday, we've identified the 75 offenders individuals under my custody that are 75 and older. There's 27 individuals, and we will be vaccinating them starting on Monday. So I thank the committee for this time to share my background, experience, and vision for the department, and I will be happy now to answer any questions.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate it, and thanks for that update. Can you? I have some other questions, but since you raised it, that Monday in February, which I think is coming up, can you explain? Is that all your staff, or just what age group of staff?
That'd be all our staff. So we've submitted 5,400 of our staff members that qualify for that Group 1B. We've done a survey of our staff. Out of the 5,400 staff members, 4,300 of our staff have participated in the survey. 1,962 have indicated that they will take the vaccination. 6,094 have indicated they will not take the vaccination, and 663 of our staff members are undecided at this time.
Okay, so the ones who want to take the vaccination will get the vaccination?
Correct, Senator.
On that one day?
No, this will be start February 1st on Monday, and it will go into February 22nd of February. We'll run Monday to Friday this week with several clinics that'll be administered by Griffin Hospital the first week, then moving on to the second week on 7 different facilities. So our staff will have probably an opportunity of probably about 3 weeks to be vaccinated for that first doses. At the same time that we'll be doing the second dose for our health service staff who were in the Group 1A.
Okay, is there a policy for anybody who does not want to take the vaccination as to how you will assign them or not?
No, there's no policy. They cannot be forced to take the vaccination. So we're educating, sending out educational material, and hopefully we want to get to a higher percentage. Right now, as I'm looking at the numbers, we have a potential to end probably around low 60 in compliance rate for the vaccination, and we want that percentage higher.
Okay, thank you. Is most of I would assume the infections coming from the officers into the prisons. Would that be correct? That's where you get your infections from, or staff obviously coming into because you don't have any visitors right now. Is that correct?
Correct. So the main introduction of the COVID-19 is our staff, because they're coming in now and going back into the communities. However, we have 4 county jails, 5 with the females, that individuals of new intakes are coming in, come bring that virus into our correctional facility. We have stopped social visits, people from coming in March. Early October, we commenced with non-contact visits on a smaller amount of citizens coming into our correctional facilities. But once a facility goes into an operational phase plan 3, then every visitor stopped from coming in, vendors and so forth.
Okay, thank you. I just want, since you mentioned, I wanted to just put those on the record. And I'm sure there'll be other questions on that as well with other committee members. I just want to get to some questions I had prepared earlier, and I appreciate the time we spent together prior to this public meeting. I want to ask you, is it the case that we have about 5,000 fewer prisoners since the last prison closed in 1998?
I want to say,
I'm sorry, 2000, what was it, 2008 or something like that? Not 1998. It's a long time ago.
Yeah, the last facility that closed was Enfield Correctional Institution up in the Enfield. And that was, I want to say that was in 2018, April 1st of 2018. So yes, right. The population has dropped close to 5,000 since.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. I didn't know why I said 1998, 2018 I meant. And you have 5,000 fewer prisoners, but about 3,000 of that 5,000 has been since COVID. Is that correct?
Correct. We've had from March 1st to current, close to 3,300 offenders.
Right, okay. And I know you talked a little bit about it in your testimony about saving resources and maybe closing additional prisons. Can you talk a little bit about that and your plans in the future? Obviously, we understand with COVID, you're trying to spread people out, and that is the right policy. Once vaccinations are commonplace in the state, and especially not only with corrections officers, but with inmates, what is your plan after COVID to close more prisons?
That, once the vaccinations, our staff has been vaccinated and our individuals in my custody have been vaccinated, we've been preparing now for several years. I've met with our correctional unions leaders and was transparent about facility closures. I plan on closing 2 correctional facilities for this budget year, FY 2021. Facility closures are very difficult because you're taking staff members and moving them out of their work location by seniority basis. And some may end up traveling further to the work site. Some may end up on a different shift because of the facility they're going to based on the seniority. We've been preparing for this rollout with our first facility closure, which I plan to announce in the very near future. And I'm listening to just about everybody from our unions, from our frontline staff, from the elected officials, from the advocacy groups of which correctional facilities should shut down. I've been on the record before indicating that the only facilities that are not on the table for me to review for shutdown are the 3 county jails, Hartford, New Haven, and Bridgeport and York, because York is the only female prison. So the other 10 correctional facilities are on the review board for me to consider. And in the very near future, there will be announcements coming out.
Okay, do you know when you anticipate that coming out at all?
Let's say within by mid-February.
Okay, and you anticipate 2?
For the physical, yeah, for the budget year FY 2021, yes.
Okay, and then any additional ones after that?
That would depend based on what happens out in the community. If there's an uptick on arrests, if the pandemic is still not under control, and I need space for the social distances, in particular in the dorm setting. Dorm setting has I need to space out those individuals and reduce the capacity by 50%. So I'm comfortable with the first 2. In FY 2021, it's going to depend what's going to happen with the COVID. It's going to depend what's going to happen with the census population. If it does increase, it's going to depend what happens out in the community. If there's more, if our unsentenced population increases, then I need to have the space.
Okay, thank you. And you mentioned earlier you have about a little over 5,000 employees. And that, which is probably, unfortunately, one of our larger agencies, if not our largest. Do you know how many are going to be retiring when we have the contract changes?
Yes, we have close to over 6,000 state employees. That 5,400 number of the individuals that are eligible to be placed on the vaccination plan of 1B, but our total staffing level is a little bit over 6,000. July 1st, 2022, I have approximately close to 1,000 employees that will have to make the decision if they're going to continue to be employee with the Department of Corrections, or if they're going to retire, so not to avoid the changes in their pension plan. The highest group of that 1,000 will be close to 500 correctional officers that are eligible to retire July 1st, 2022.
Okay, thank you. And do you know how many, as my last question, do you know how many you might need to hire at that point based on kind of your modeling that you're trying to do?
So right now, in the past 3 years, we've had 3 academy classes go through the entire year. I believe that this year, for this budget year, that I'm seeing probably 1 class, and that'll be probably late in the fall, early winter, sometime in October or November. So we usually operate 3 classes for the whole year. I'm only seeing 1 class because I will be able to reallocate the resources of the closing facilities to still be good.
Thank you. How many in a class?
Our classes average anywhere from 120 to 150.
Thank you very much. Representative Gresco, do you have any? Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate the answers to the questions. Representative Gresco, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I do. Mr. Kiddos, thank you for being here today, and congratulations on your nomination by the governor. But I just had a couple of questions. I understand that inmates who have tested positive for COVID are quarantined, but the Department of Corrections personnel that are assigned to those individuals are cycled. Does that create an issue with exposure and contact tracing?
It could. So let me walk you through. So an individual that is tested positive for symptomatic individuals, may be showing high temperature or have a couple of the symptoms. Those individuals are moved to our medical isolation unit at Suffield. At the peak on December 22nd, we had like 280 symptomatic offenders at a McDougal. That unit originally was ran by the facility staff, and I had some concerns that I was having too many staff members being posted in those 3 housing units, and it was probably contributing to the spread. So the decision I made was bring in our correctional emergency response team, and I have probably about 50 staff members that are working those units and are the same staff members that are working that unit. They have a separate entrance. They have the proper PPE, so that has reduced the spread at that facility. Then you have, on the other 13 correctional facilities, you got quarantine units for individuals that are asymptomatic. As of this morning, I had 182 asymptomatic individuals under my custody that are being monitored in those quarantine units at 11 correctional facilities. And the wardens will attempt to make sure that just one group of individuals are assigned to that housing units. But you have to understand that there's 3 different shifts. So on one day, we may have probably 6 different staff members entering that housing unit, that work that housing unit. And we try our best to keep them there and not put them in anywhere else in the correctional facilities.
Thank you. And my next question, you had mentioned it in your statement, making the technology, specifically tablets, available to those that are under your custody, so that they can email to their families, do research, further their education. But the state makes money off of that technology availability, but it's for things that assist reintroduction. Is that correct?
So right now, currently, so 2 things have happened. We got team visits. Team visits came on board, I want to say early October. And so we went out to our 14 correctional facilities, wired up and did the infrastructures and provided them with the laptops for the individuals to have teams visit. Team visits is free to the family members. There's no charge to the family members. Since October, we've had probably over 5,000 visits on teams, and it's a big, it's just the perfect tool to keep the offenders connected to the family members. The iMessaging is on the tablet. That started The Department of Correction, after having a meeting with the 4 judicial committee members, I decided, so a stamp will cost, which is a tax, will cost the offender 20 cents. And then the family members that are replying back, that will be an additional 20 cents. A lot cheaper than a stamp, a lot quicker. The Department of Corrections is not taking any income based on that. Off the tablets, the only income the vendor's taking is those for games and movies. But I'm trying to gear our agency that as much as we can to gear away from making a profit from the family members. To me, communication with the families of the loved ones is the most important, and it should be free or at the lowest cost as possible to the family members out in the community.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, my last question has to do with the recent Barfield claim that the legislature will be eventually voting on. But come March of 2022 and the Hep C testing stops, why March of 2022? Do you hope to have it eradicated by then, or why was the date chosen?
I am not sure why that date was chosen, but I can tell you as a commissioner, my intention is to continue make it a priority that these individuals that we've identified that need to be in the Hep C medication program, that we deliver that and we continue to provide the medical treatment. Our guidance, our policy mirrors exactly of the Bureau prison system. And my intention is that come March of 2022, continue to provide that medical treatment and so forth to the offender population.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all the questions I had.
Great, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Representative, any other questions from members of the committee? Senator Looney. Take yourself off mute, Senator. Can't hear you yet, Marty.
Hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, good. All right. Got me unmuted. All right, good. Thanks. Commissioner, congratulations on your nomination.
Thank you, sir.
And appreciate the opportunity to speak with you in advance of this hearing. A couple of questions to follow up on the things that you said about the pretrial detainees. That's a particular concern, I think, in terms of healthcare, because the sentence population obviously is carefully screened and monitored. But what are the COVID protections that are being applied to the pretrial population?
Yes. So our pretrial population right now in the 4 county jails, we have over 3,000 male and over 229 female offenders that are unsentenced. As I indicated earlier, individuals are coming out from the community and are being brought into the Department of Corrections. They're quarantined for the first 14 days. They're given a COVID test at the beginning of the entry. They're monitored by our health service staff and for any symptoms. And then on the 14th day, they're tested again. And if they're negative, then they will move from the quarantine unit into a general population unit. There's a mass testing that goes on weekly with the offender population. There's weekly testings that goes on with our correctional staff. Anytime an individual in my custody is discharging, going out to a hospital trip, transferring internally 3 days prior, there's a COVID test just to make sure that if the individual is positive, that he or she does not move. And that's been a huge difference from the first wave, where back in March, the test kits were not as available as we are today. I can tell you that a week ago, we did close to 5,700 tests of the offender population in 1 week.
Mm-hmm. Also on that, Commissioner, has there been any substantial change in the numbers of people in pretrial detention today as opposed to what it was last March at the beginning of the pandemic?
It has slightly increased. I think back in March and probably more towards April, we probably hit 2,700 unsentenced, and now we're close to a little bit over 3,000. So I have seen an increase in the intake in our county jails, yes.
And is that primarily because of people unable to post bond?
I'm going to say that during COVID-19, one thing with the Department of Corrections, there was strong, definitely some collaboration with the front end of the system, with diversional programming, with the prosecutor's office, with Judge Carroll and his staff, with CSSD, with the public defender's office, and reviewing cases at the front end and making sure that the individuals that came to my front door at the Department of Correction was individuals that needed to be there, that if there was any opportunity for to divert them, that diversion was made.
I see. Is there less of that now going on?
No, the collaboration is still there. Public defender's office still busy. The prosecutor's office is still busy. My communication with Judge Carroll and CSSD is still there, and which we're always monitoring that front end to make sure that minimize that number as much as possible.
You mentioned that there is we're expecting a couple of new classes of 120 to 150 per class. What's the starting salary now for a correction officer?
Well, they're an academy, I believe is it's like 41,000 while they're in academy, and then once they graduate, then it's a slight increase. I want to say anywhere between 44, 45,000 after they've graduated from the academy.
I see, when they first come out on the job. Thanks. Also, one of the concerns I know in terms of eligibility for early release is the issue of finding suitable placement for people. There are regulations about what the nature of the setting or living arrangements for people who are going to be released on early release programs or on probation. Sometimes there are circumstances that come up. I think I mentioned to you when we were speaking that I had a number of years ago, a client of mine was someone who had been an exemplary prisoner, had undertaken and participated and completed a lot of programs that were offered to him, and was being considered for early release. And his mother and older brother, who were owned a home together and lived in the community in a stable way, were willing to take him in. The problem was that each of them had a felony conviction years ago. In the mother's case, it had been, I think, 20 years earlier. In the older brother's case, 10 years earlier. And there was a problem getting him released into that setting because of the strictness of the rule about not associating with anyone with a prior record. But in this case, they were by this time upstanding citizens, but they had these convictions in their past. And how do you evaluate that? I mean, do you take a case-by-case approach, or do you apply some flexibility in circumstances like that in terms of making a judgment about appropriate people for a releasee to associate with or live with?
That's a great question. As I indicated prior, I have firsthand experience with family members that have done lengthy time in the correctional settings and have changed and come out to be great citizens, taxpayers. As a commissioner, I need to have that flexibility to make sure that this is case by case. And in that case that you indicated and we talked previously, that is great. That's a perfect case where I want to send that individual out into their families. To me, the family support is key in making sure that individual is successful. To me, that brother who was incarcerated and has been out for 10 years and is a law-abiding citizen paying taxes, I want that brother to be around that individual's coming out to provide that individual hope. So I will take it case by case. And I will be flexible with the requirements and getting these individuals back to their loved ones and back out into the community so they can be successful.
Good. Thank you. And you mentioned in terms of community connection, I know that many studies have shown that the prospects for release prisoners, the reentry population, to be successful and not fall back into their prior behavior when they come back, in many cases, is directly related to the quality of their contacts with their family and their community while they were incarcerated, and to avoid a situation of alienation, loneliness, and isolation when they come out. And one of the keys to that, I know over the past, one of the things that's been controversial is the cost of telephone conversations between inmates and their family, and that was being used in many ways as a profit center, for corrections, and that the cost that for those, in effect, collect calls that the families and the community would have to bear were extreme. And I know there's legislation this year that would end that practice. And I know it's also the case, as you know, that most of the inmates come from the larger cities in the state, from New Haven, Hartford, Bridgeport, Waterbury, New Britain, for instance, but yet they are located in some of the more remote areas of the state, far away from their homes. So the issue is a cost in order to, and most of the time they do come from low-income families, so it is often a burden to sustain regular telephone contact with the rates as high as they have been, and the cost being a profit center for the department. Just your thoughts on that process.
So let me be clear, for an individual under my custody to be successful, it is key, that connection while they're incarcerated with their loved ones. I will be an advocate to make sure that the pricing on the inmate full system is reduced. If we can get to zero, that'll be great, with the understanding that even if it gets to zero, there's gonna be a cost for those phone calls to the Department of Correction, and becomes a budget issue of where how we're going to pay for it. So I'm going to be a strong advocate that those prices should be reduced, because that family connection to me is priceless, and making sure that that loved one is connected to the family members, providing them with the best opportunity. And again, from firsthand experience, I can tell you that that family contact with my family and those offenders were key. So making sure that you provided them with the support they needed to come out, because it's going to be very difficult. And they're coming out now during a pandemic where employment rate is higher, so it's even more important for us, for me as a commissioner, to make sure that that communication is as low as possible. And if it's free, it's even better.
Great, good, thank you. One, Commissioner, do you have a sense of how many people in the system right now among the sentence population are there serving their original sentence, or how many people are there in right now who are in there on a charge of violation of parole or violation of probation, as opposed to the original charge under which they came into the system?
I don't want to have the exact number, but I can tell you that this question came up before, and my recollection is clear. I think there were, in the categories, they rated number 5, meaning that I've had more individuals coming in. The number 1 charge coming in was murder since COVID, and then VOPP, violation of probation, program probation, was ranked number 5. But I can get you those numbers. I can tell you that it significantly has decreased, we've brought individuals back into custody, and within weeks send them right back out. So it has decreased, but I can get you the exact numbers.
Good, yeah, and of course that breaks down into 2 categories. Also, there are some violators who come back because they have committed a new crime, and that new crime is both a crime in itself and also constitutes a violation of their probation or parole. But what I'm wondering about more is how many people are there incarcerated who are there on a violation charge for something that was not in itself, that would not be regarded as a crime if it were committed by somebody who was not under that sentence, but a technical violation of their parole. Someone who is there because they say failed a drug test, or missed a probation appointment, or failed to check in, or failed on one of the conditions of probation or parole, rather than something that would be a clear violation like a new crime would be.
So let me be very clear that those numbers are very low, and I will get you the numbers, Senator. We do not violate during COVID pandemic. We did not violate an individual for missing a curfew one time, 2 times, probably 3 times. There were multiple occasions that occur, multiple dirty urines that occur before we brought the individual in. Our plan was to work with the individual, guide them, redirect them, and try to keep them on the community. But I will definitely get those numbers for you.
Good. Well, I appreciate that, Commissioner. Thank you very much. And congratulations on the distinguished career you've had in the department up to this time, holding every rank all the way up, and look forward to your tenure as Commissioner.
Thank you, Senator Nomi.
Thank you, Senator. Any other questions from members of the committee? Senator Summers, followed by Rep. Vargas.
Yes, congratulations, Commissioner, on your new role. And I just had a few questions concerning healthcare. You've had a lot of questions concerning COVID, but the Public Health Committee is concerned about the healthcare of inmates in general. And we would love the opportunity to sit down with you and the DPH Commissioner and talk about some of the things that have come to us, and wanted to see if you were open to that, and suggestions that we have that could perhaps improve the healthcare that our prisoners or inmates are receiving in as far as the delivery and the ratio of staff. And, this is beyond COVID, in addition to COVID. We're very concerned about the ratio of the social workers and mental health availability for our inmates, and in general, their healthcare in general. We've made some changes over the few years, from obviously going from Yukon Health delivering it to having it, directed under the DOC, but there's still some areas of concern for us. And we also, in public health, have questions on, for example, a bill that we have looked at talks about how, believe it or not, dogs can detect COVID with 99% accuracy through their scent. And that's something that we'd like to work with you on, to see if that is a program that we could connect our inmates to help them perhaps train dogs that can actually smell COVID. It's a great way to use them in large venues as a screening process. It's been very successful in other countries, and a few states are now picking it up. So we'd love an opportunity to see if you are open to those sorts of ideas going forward.
Senator Summers, absolutely. I'm available to meet. I will assure you that before I made a decision to take on this job as a nominee for commissioner, my top priority needed to be the healthcare service that was being delivered to the population that I am responsible for. I've been here since 1989, so I was here when the Department of Corrections ran medical. I was here for when Yukon came in, and then I was here for when we took them back under our supervision. I will tell you that I've seen some great improvements. I will also tell you there's a lot of room for improvement in the system, and I will be at the table with anybody that's going to help us improve the delivery of care to the individuals that need to be the same standard of care out in the community. As far as the dog, Miami Heat, we're using it last week. Dogs to sniff the fans coming in for COVID-19. So we do have 2 programs where we train dogs for the vets, and we also train greyhound dogs to get them accustomed to, once they leave the racing track, to go back to be adopted. I'll be more than happy to start up the program where we're going to have dogs detecting COVID-19. I think it'll be beneficial for the staff as well as the population. That is one, I can tell you, when you walk the facilities that has the canines in that we have, you can see that it makes a difference.
It does. So I'm excited about that. So thank you for answering those questions. And I look forward to having you meet with our committee and talk about the dog program at a later time. And congratulations.
Thank you, Senator Summers.
Thank you, Senator. Representative Vargas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would be remiss as a representative of the South Hartford, part of the great city, capital city of Hartford, if I didn't speak up today at this hearing. First of all, our Commissioner Designee, Angel Quiroz, I want to congratulate you on being appointed Commissioner of the Department of Corrections by Governor Ned Lamont. I think it's a wonderful day. I also wanted to weigh in on some of these issues. I wanted to let you know that I strongly support the idea of making phone calls more accessible to family members and inmates. And if that requires an allocation of funds, I'm willing to support that. I'm sure that many of our colleagues here at the legislature are willing to support that, but we have to make those phone calls accessible. I also am a strong supporter of reforming the medical treatment for our inmates, making sure that they get quality health care while they're incarcerated. And on a personal note, you know that I know your family well for many decades. They've contributed much to the city of Hartford, and we're very proud of them. And we're very proud of you coming up the ranks of the Department of Corrections and making your way up to the top position within that department. And as a proud Latino, and specifically as a proud Puerto Rican, which we both are, it's an important day for all of us to know that in this day and age, we have one of our own in such a key position, not only from the city of Hartford, from our own ethnic group, which, as you know, has been underrepresented for many, many years. And it's been a struggle to have the kind of role models that our kids need in our community to look up to. So I congratulate you and I wish you great success in your tenure as the Commissioner of DOC. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Vargas, thank you very much, and thank you for your continued support.
Thank you, Representative. Any other questions from members of the committee at all? Do I see Senator Moore with her hand on the button at all, or no?
Yeah.
Senator Moore?
Okay. So
Say
good
that
morning.
again?
Good morning, Senator Moore.
Good morning. I had the pleasure of listening to you last night with the Black and Puerto Rican Caucus, so I heard a lot about who you are. I really do want to congratulate you. I heard what Representative Vargas said. It's really important for us and our children and for just the community to see that, you know, you work hard, you worked hard, you work your way up, you have a good idea, an understanding of what is happening in the criminal justice system and incarceration. I appreciate that you're there and that you've seen so much and you understand the changes that need to be made. I had a question regarding the COVID vaccines. It seemed like there was a high percentage of people who have chosen not to get the vaccine. I was wondering, do you know by facility, what are the highest percentages of who has decided not to get the vaccine?
Yeah, I have those numbers right now. I'm just looking through my paperwork. If you want, I can walk you through it individually.
I don't think so. Are there two? What are the two highest?
The two highest right now will be Cheshire CI. They have 168 that will take it, 155 that said no, 76 that are undecided. The next highest will be McDougall Walker. 225 indicated they will take it. 224 indicated they will not take it. 135 indicated that they will. They're undecided. I think there's one more here.
So you might have some places that over 50% of the staff will not be vaccinated.
Correct.
So going forward, once all of the vaccinations take place, do you have a plan on how you might address that? I know the vaccination is not mandatory, but if you don't have a plan, will you be thinking about what your plan will be when you see the numbers rise in the facilities where over 50% are not getting the vaccination? I don't know if that's enough for herd immunity, but I think it's something that you should keep an eye on.
Absolutely. It's not enough. Our biggest piece is going to be now the education, going back into the education. Our biggest piece now is going to be for those individuals that said no to see the other 50% of their peers that are taking it and with no side effects and coming to work. And then there's a big educational piece, Senator Moore, too. for the offender population. Because we average probably in a flu season, probably 35% of our offender population will take the flu shot. So we've been very busy the last 2 weeks educating not just our staff, but also the population on the importance of taking this vaccination so that we can minimize the spread of the COVID-19. And I would say that the last 2 weeks, our numbers when it comes to COVID-19 are significantly dropping, where this morning, I only have 65 offenders in the medical isolation unit with symptoms. Back in December, we were up to 280. But education is going to be a big piece, getting out there, and then the other big piece that I'm banking on is those undecided individuals. When they start seeing those clinics up in their correctional facilities, and they start seeing those other staff members and peers taking the shot, that that they'll say, you know what, I'm going to be smart, I'm going to take the shot and play. And then from that point on, I'm going to be monitoring daily the percentage of our staff and our offender population, and then continue to monitor this every single day. I can tell you, Senator Moore, that this is a 7 days a week job, 12, 16 hours, just monitoring every single case of COVID-19 for me.
My final question is, thank you for that. But do you have an education program that's specific for your population to encourage them to get the vaccination and help them understand what's happening with the vaccination? Or
Yes.
is it being developed?
Yes, we're our information, the educational information we receive is the information from CDC. That information, copies are made, copies are given to the offender populations. Somewhat town halls, because you got to be careful with the number of offenders that we bring together. But the educational piece, a lot of it is face-to-face with our medical personnel going into those housing units and answering the questions that the offender may have about the vaccination. And it's just going to be continuing that cycle of the educational piece and the face-to-face where they have an opportunity to ask the question. To me, that's the most beneficial, that may have an individual change their mind from a no to a yes.
Okay, I said that was my final, but it's not really, just this is my final. How do you educate the incarcerated people when they can't come together? What type of communication are you using to reach them?
Well, they are coming together. Some facilities, so what we did for COVID-19, and I don't want to make this answer complicated, but operational plan, if a facility did not have large numbers of COVID-19, that will be in a phase 1 operational plan, meaning that movement within that facility, there will still be school call, there will still be work call, there will still be medical call, and the offenders will be able to move around the facility. If a facility gets placed in a phase 3 of an operational plan, that's a lockdown. That means that the cases is a red zone for us, like out in the community, that we need to minimize the movement. In that case, when a facility is on a phase 3, a lot of the education to the population is one-on-one with the health service staff and the educational staff at their cell, or when they come out in the recreation area with small numbers, and that's the educational piece. Right now, I only have 2 correctional facilities that are on a phase 3. The rest are on phase 1, and Cheshire's on phase 2. So there's a lot of movement still that is happening in the facility that makes it easier for the educational piece to happen.
Thank you, and congratulations.
Thank you, Senator Moore.
Thank you. I want to call on Representative Kennedy next, and I have just a question in between that, but I apologize to her if she's been raising her hand and I'm not seeing it. It's the screens are moving around, and I'm sorry if you were looking to ask a question and I missed you before. Commissioner, just following up on Senator Moore's question about and what you had said to me earlier with regard to only about 50% of the correction officers or staff looking to get their vaccination. we've heard from medical experts that herd immunity should be somewhere between 70 to 85%. If you're only, hopefully that through education, you can make that number go up to the correct number. But I would ask that if that does not happen, that you circle back with members of the legislature, maybe even this committee or others, the relevant committees, with regard to a plan as to how you will address that if you do not get to the recommended herd immunity number. Because if only 50% of the 50% of the members of your staff are getting vaccinated, what's the point if that's not creating herd immunity? We need to make sure that we're keeping everybody safe all the way around. Is there a mask policy that is for corrections officers and other staff in the prisons?
Yes, there's an executive order mandating the mask on our staff and the offender population. And I've made it mandatory as part of the uniform for our frontline staff members.
Okay, and is that you have good compliance?
Just like out in the community, sometimes you got to reinforce the mask wearing. I will tell you that probably in July and August, similar to the community, there was mass fatigue, there was COVID fatigue, not just our staff, but also the population. When I was walking into these facilities and I was seeing that the majority of our staff and the offenders were complying with the mask, but there were situations where I walk into a facilities that we had to address both staff and the population under our custody. And it was similar to what we're seeing in the community. And as simply as a supervisor, as they're touring, and the wardens as they're touring the facility, to make sure that the minute that we see it, constant reminders, and memorandum from my office as a commissioner statewide to the facilities for roll call notice, reminding them the importance of wearing masks and just addressing it as day to day, minute to minute.
Thank you. Okay, Representative Kennedy, I apologize and thank you. Sometimes hold up your hand so I can at least see him here. If maybe you were and I just didn't see it, I apologize. But thank you. Okay.
I appreciate it. Just Commissioner Queiroz, thank you so much. We did speak last week, but just following up on Chairman Duff's last comment, I do appreciate your diligence in making sure that your staff is wearing masks, as it does help. I want to applaud you on your lengthy and I'm sorry, very lengthy and decorated career. And thank you so much for everything that you've done as Commissioner for the state of Connecticut. My question is regarding the iMessaging on the tablets. Is the iMessaging, you had mentioned movies and books possibly, do they also communicate, did you say, with their families as well with the iMessaging?
Yes, so the iPads that the offender population will be receiving right now, we have 1,500 at McDougal, and we're working through the kinks to make sure that we fix them out before we roll out to the other facilities. So there's a iMessaging system on it. So the offender will pay 20 cents. They call it a stamp. So that 20 cents will allow the individual to send out a message to a loved one, a family member, a friend, somebody out in the community, up to 6,000 characters. That'll go into the system. It will be reviewed to make sure that there's no violence or anything that is could be criminal intent. Once that message is clear, the family member will receive the message, the loved one will receive the message. Once the loved one in the community receive the message, there will be an account they set up with the vendor. The vendor will charge them 20 cents to send a message back to the individuals under my custody. The family members are allowed up to 20,000 characters, which is around 3 pages handwritten to respond back to the population. It's going to be quicker for them to communicate. It is going to be cheaper for them. I think a stamp right now costs 55 cents out in the community, and then you have to buy the envelope and send it in, and then it may take 3, 5, 6, 7 days for that communication to exchange. The exchange will be a lot quicker and a lot cheaper. And again, the Department of Correction is not taking any profit off that iMessaging system.
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate that clarification. And then going back to, we did have that lengthy discussion, I think my first year in session, regarding the cell phones. Can you just elaborate on the costs of the cell phones? I know there's legislation this year, and I appreciate the new information and knowledge that I now have from listening to you, but can you just provide some additional information on that for me? As to costs, and is every inmate, will everyone be given a cell phone, or it's just use of certain number of cell phones? Is it, what's the process?
There's no cell phones being issued out to the offender population. These are phones that are installed by the vendor inside of the housing units. Housing units has probably anywhere from 5 to 7 telephone lines that the individuals are able to contact their family members. They're allowed up to 3, probably 5 calls a day for 15 minutes each time. A 15-minute call could cost a family member, I believe we're close to $15 a charge. There have been, I've met with many elected officials. Last year, I've been in conversation with a representative so far this year to introduce a bill to reduce that cost to zero to the family members. So there is a portion that comes back from the phone calls. $250,000 comes back to the Department of Corrections, and in turn, that money turns around, and we're able to provide some programs to the offender population. And there's a larger amount that comes back to the state that assists CSSD with the salaries of their probation officers, and then there's a portion that assists the state with the informational system. I don't have those exact numbers, but there are a couple millions.
Thank you very much. And that's pretty much, and I just want to wrap up by just saying that I do applaud your efforts on the education piece regarding the vaccinations. That is very important. Having the knowledge is the most important thing going forward. And I do hope that some of the over 1,000 people that you mentioned do decide to take advantage of the vaccinations. But again, sir, thank you very much for your distinguished and lengthy career to the state of Connecticut, and look forward to working with you in the future. Congratulations, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Yakarino, followed by Senator Formica. And is there anybody else before Representative Quinn? Did you have your hand up? Or Senator Summers did again? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Commissioner. This is Representative Yakarino from North Haven.
You might want to put your screen down a little bit, Dave.
Ow.
There we go.
How's
Now I
that?
can see. There I can see a little bit.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Commissioner. Congratulations also. I can't see the Commissioner though, but I can only see you, Bob, Senator Duff. So as far as education, we've discussed quite a bit on the vaccine, which I think is important. But as you as Commissioner, what is your vision for education, actually, for inmates to hopefully get an education through be the trades, or an education to have some hope and stability, so if when they do get out, they have opportunity in the civilian life.
Absolutely, that's a very important topic. So what we have done during the COVID pandemic, when I talked about going into the 14 correctional facilities and wiring the infrastructures, for example, we were able to do virtual learning with the individuals that are participating in the Pell Grant. And I want to say probably since October, there's probably 4 community colleges that are continuing with the Pell Grant program in our population, which is a very important program that our population takes advantage of that. We also went into MYI and equipped MYI in the process with Wi-Fi so that that population, the youth population, has an opportunity that whenever we go into a lockdown status, that the teachers are still able to do virtual teaching to these students in their cells. They have right now have 220 individuals in MY. They all have the Chromebooks for them. So my vision for the Department of Corrections is similar to Michigan State. They have the villages where they were able to bring the manufacturing piece inside of a correctional facility. If you remember, back in March of 2019, I had close to 26 individuals attending Asnunta Community College, the manufacturing program. And unfortunately, we had one individual decided he was going to walk away on a Saturday. And what happened was with the program ended up getting canceled based on one incident. So I want to bring that program inside a correctional facility, so where the hands-ons and the machines are done inside a correctional facility, so we don't have to worry about safety and security, and then continue the partnership. Before COVID, I had 8 individuals working in Whitcraft on second shift. So our staff members would drop them off on second shift at Whitcraft in Ashford, Connecticut, and then pick them up at midnight. And these individuals, when they were discharging and Whitcraft was hiring them, they had entry-level jobs making up to $50,000. Those are the kind of program educational skill set that I want to bring to the Department of Corrections, because the most important things for an individual to be successful is having a home, the family support, and then that job.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's hope and having that opportunity. So speaking of home, I heard you mentioned Connecticut Coalition and the homelessness. I do work with them on occasion, and I'm really glad that you do that. What's the Department of Corrections role with them? I think it's important, because if you go to the point, you go out in the middle of the night, people are homeless, and you ask them, why are you here? Why are you go to a warming center? They don't have a job. They have other issues, obviously, unfortunately. But what is your correlation and connection, and what will you do further as a commissioner? Not just in the Hartford area, but it's the whole state.
So they were critical. They played a critical role in March and early April when COVID really hit hard in that first wave. In the month of April, we had 60 individuals that had nowhere to go. And working with the coalition, I mean, we worked with them on first shift, second shift, Saturdays, Sundays, no matter what time of the hour. And we were working with the coalition to place all 60 individuals into a home. We drove them, our staff drove these individuals to hotels when they discharged. And some individuals, we stopped at CVS and made sure that we picked up their medication for 2 weeks. And so not only did we found them a place to stay, those 60 individuals, we drove them, and then we made sure we stopped at CVS to get the medication they needed. So that was not a problem. My job is to continue working with them.
Right.
They're very critical, not just because of the COVID, but from this point going on, to make sure that we minimize the individuals that are going into the community, and they have somewhere to put their head on at night and sleep. That's one less thing they're going to have to worry about.
Thank you. 2 more questions, and I really appreciate your answers, and I think you're going to do a great job. And I hope you do, and I believe you will. So I speak to quite a few, they're retired now, former correction employees, and their biggest complaint to me many times was they'd be either in the education field in the DOC or just correction officers, and governors from both Democrat, Republican would have political appointees, and it really hurt their morale in some cases, because these folks are coming in making more money than the rank and file. Is that still the case? I haven't spoke to any of these folks in about 4 or 5 years, but they were always concerned that people would be hired by the DOC. Maybe you don't know about it yet. You might see it as your commissioner, but they really didn't have any expertise, but they just were put there by either a Democrat or Republican governor. Have you heard of any of these cases? Because they've complained to me.
I'm trying to follow the
Like,
question.
I'll say somebody appointed to a position that really has no expertise in the Department of Correction, but they were just, I don't know, the actual political appointees, basically, in a sense. That's what they would say to me. So a woman used to teach there, and somebody would be hired, and they had no business being in there as a manager or one of her bosses.
Got you. So the only political appointment right now today.
Not you. I don't mean you, sir.
is me.
You're correct.
Yeah, all my promotions, internal and appointments,
Right.
have been done from within the Department of Correction. Those individuals that have worked in those facilities, those individuals that have the experience and knowledge of a correctional facilities.
Good. And one last question. So what do you see the biggest challenges? I mean, I think the education piece is critical for people to have have hope rather, and knowledge. Do you see, what are your challenges going forward that maybe the legislature could help with you working together, or just as a state, as far as your role?
Yeah, I mean, this job as a commissioner is it's probably one of the most difficult jobs there is in state agency. There will be many challenges. I don't think there's one challenge that's going to be going to resolve the problem for my job to get easier. I think that I need to come into this with being open-minded, understanding that I have to listen to the staff, listen to the elected official, listen to the media, listen to the unions, listen to the advocacy group. No matter how difficult that conversation may be, I need to be at the table and listen to that conversation and making changes that are going to be in sync where we want how to reform the department, but one that is done safely with our staff in mind, and one that's done safely for the offenders returning back to the community. My wish would be that the collaboration that I've seen during this COVID-19 pandemic, when everybody, all state agencies, the nonprofit vendors, the individuals in the community will continue to work together and continue to work with the Department of Corrections to make these individuals be successful when they go back out into the community. The business partners, taking that risk with the individual that has a felony conviction. You know how difficult it is for an individual to get a good paying job with a felony conviction. That is difficult, but I need those communities to take a chance on these individuals, and help them. They're not going to be perfect, they're going to fall, be there to pick them back up as a community and continue with the collaboration so that I, as a commissioner, could continue to reduce our budget and an opportunity for elected official to reappropriate those funds into other social services that benefit the community.
I think you have the great attitude and obviously a great experience, and I think you're going to take that forward in our state, and that it's such a critical role. And you said it, I think you hit it right on the head. People need opportunity. They need a second chance, as long as they're willing to work and get an education and have the community also accept them. That's the hardest part, is having people accept that maybe he or she made a mistake, but they've learned from that and they want to be part of society. And that's the best solution. It's not perfect, but it's the best solution, I think. But I really appreciate your answers. I support you. I think you're going to do well. And thank you to committee members, and God bless.
Thank you, Representative.
Thank you, Representative. Okay, you can go back now to watching the commissioner rather than me, my face, I guess. It's a better view. All right, next, Senator Formica.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all very much. Commissioner, thank you for stepping up, and congratulations on this appointment. I just don't, I just have a comment that I'd like to make. You've answered so eloquently all the questions that were put forward to you today, and it just is an indication of the command of the agency and of your position that you already possess. So I think the department is in great hands with you, and coming up through the ranks, your practical experience, I've been able to see firsthand as former first selectman and working with you way back when. And, my only regret today is that this is a House resolution and I'm not able to vote for you, to move you forward. But any support that we can provide, I'm happy to do so. And, I'm so grateful for you for stepping up and the hard work you've put in, and congratulations to you on this promotion.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate that. Senator Summers?
Yes, one thing I forgot to mention, and it sparked my memory when you were being asked about the hesitancy on taking the vaccine. One thing that the Vaccine Task Force Advisory Committee is doing, if this is helpful to you, we have been setting up forums across the state of Connecticut in different venues for different audiences, where we have the ability to have a scientific review member who reviewed all the data from the submission to the FDA, typically an MD or APRN that has actually had the shots themselves, a communications member, and anyone else that you think would be appropriate. And they can come and we can do it through Zoom, where any of the folks, whether they be inmates and or prisoners or your staff, have questions specifically about the vaccine, and we're seeing specific age groups have questions, they can get the answers directly from the experts in a very honest and frank way. So we are happy to set one up for you, or two if you need. And it has been extremely helpful in dispelling some of the false information about the vaccine that's out there. And also we've seen an uptick in the number of people willing to take the vaccine after they have an opportunity to join one of these forums. And it's a way to encourage folks to consider actually taking the vaccine. And we have seen folks, even in the healthcare, that were hesitant. They wanted to be second to get the vaccine, and now they've seen their coworkers not have issues, so they're willing to come on board. If that's something that would be helpful or you'd like to do, please feel free to reach out and we can set that up for you.
Thank you, Senator Summers. Definitely, I have somebody taking notes from me, so I will take you up on that. And you're right. I'm hoping that those no's, as they're watching, they're encouraged by the reactions of their peers, and we get to that higher compliance number.
Thank you, Senator. I have Senator Looney next. Before he goes, is there anybody else who would like ask questions? Just raise your hand if you don't mind. I don't. Senator Hartley, did you have a question? I have Senator Looney going. Just want to make sure you're on the list if you want to be.
Yes, please.
Okay, great. Okay, Senator Looney, floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one additional question, Commissioner. A number of years ago, I had a conversation with one of your predecessors, Commissioner Teresa Lance, when she was going before the committee. We were looking at the department budget and showed at the time that the amount for education programs, for post-secondary education programs, had been reduced substantially. And I asked her why that was, and she said, frankly, it's because we have so few people in the system that would be eligible to take those. And really the best that we can do in many cases is provide a GED for people in our system, because so many people come into the prison system with less education than a high school diploma. And for the most part, the best that we can do is see that they acquire a GED while there, that they have so few that are educationally equipped to go beyond that. Your thoughts on that? Is that still pretty much the same? Is that level of education deficit still pretty common in the inmate population, so that in terms of preparation for future life, for most, a realistic goal is getting a GED perhaps, and capacity to go beyond that is might take longer than their prison sentence in many cases?
Sadly to report that when these individuals come into my custody, the majority of them, their reading level and the math level is probably as low as a fourth grade level. So there's a lot of barriers for them to overcome with our school system. We mandate that if they're under 21 years old, that they have to go into school. They cannot have a work assignment as anywhere in the facility without obtaining that diploma. There's still we still do issue out high school diplomas. I think last week I signed on 3 of them, but the majority of the individuals in my custody that go to school end up getting a GED. I can tell you that the Unified School District 1 with the teachers they work tirelessly trying to get these individuals educated. We've seen that when they come in at a reading level of a 4th grade, within like a 2 or 3 month period, just increase their reading level probably to that of an 8th grade. You know, so you do see the improvements daily and monthly, but we need to continue. We need to continue with the funding of these school programs to provide them opportunities so the individuals can be successful. When they come out.
Good. And you mentioned there was the program you had at one of the community colleges, I believe, but that was more of a job training program, wasn't it? Where you said someone walked away and you wanted to bring that in-house instead for better security. But do you have many students now who are doing college level work? I know there was the program with Trinity College, bringing professors to work with inmates. Is that still continuing, or do you have anything that's post high school right now?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. That's at Cheshire, it's Wesleyan University.
Yes. Yeah.
Yale, and then we probably got another 600 plus individuals that have taken advantage of the Pell Grant, and those are the individuals that I spoke about. That in October they started taking their classes virtually online with the professor, and that is a great program, the Pell Grant, and we're looking hopefully to increase those numbers.
Right, and I know there was also a writing program, I believe, for college credit for the women inmates at York. I think that Mr. Lamb, I think, had run for a number of years, and others. I think that was also a college credit writing program, wasn't it?
Yes, and that program, that's Wally Lamb.
Yes.
That program came to an end probably about 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything going on at York to replace that now?
Yes, the offenders too, they do participate in the Pell program and college programs as well.
Good. Well, thank you, Commissioner, and look forward to your good work in the future in this critical job.
Thank you, Senator.
Thanks, Senator Looney. Next, we have Senator Hartley, followed by Senator Kelly. I believe had a question as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner, I'm so excited to have you go through this process and to get this to be official. You come to this position with an incredible wealth of experience and know the department intimately and the challenges. So talk about boots on the ground. I know you're ready to go. I just wanted to, first of all, welcome you and then tell you that I'd like to reach out to you to sit down to have maybe some uninterrupted time to ferret out this conversation about ex-offenders, end-of-termers, and the transition into the work environment. You talked about the fact that, it's home, it's family, and it's a job. I mean, I witness this every day in my community in Waterbury when in the past we've had, our end-of-termers ending up, down on Bennett Street, being discharged into the homeless shelter. And it's the programs we know that work the best are those that give those individuals credentials at the time that they are re-entering the community. And we've had a very successful program in Waterbury working with the manufacturing community. And I'm sure you're acquainted with it, where they came on site, worked And once again, in the general population, we're talking about stackable credentials and short-term training programs. We're recognizing the value of those right now in this job environment where, in particularly in manufacturing, where there is this need for skilled workers, and then the reskilling and the upskilling. So I just very briefly, I was wondering, in the past, I had this conversation about many of the inmates work in electronics area, HVAC, those kinds of things, and so they get credentials or certification for time worked in prison, but that credential shows as a DOC credential, and there was a conversation about trying to, for example, if they were doing it for DEEP, or they were doing it for, another agency, that they would get the credential from maybe DOL, which would, in some instances, blunt some of, this characterization when they're going back into the job environment. Have we been able to do anything with that credentialing process?
Yes, Senator. So I've been in contact, actually in 2019 under Commissioner Cook, we partnered up with the Department of Labor and did exactly that. And I believe we have one program that is credentialed right now, and those are the individuals that are training our K-9 for the veterans as an assistance dog. Those individuals, once they have so many hours of training, become certified K-9 trainers via that program, and they're certified by the Department of Labor. We're looking at other programs like barbering, so many hours of barbering, and get those individuals with license to be a barber. So when they come out into the community, so we will continue with the partnership with the Department of Labor, and if I may too, I just want to add one more. We talked about the four, I'll call them 4 elements for the individuals to be successful: family, a home, a job, but the most important is that self-commitment of the individual to want to change, to want to go back out into the community, change their environment, change where they were hanging out, change who they're associating with, take that commitment, that commitment, because I can have all the programs and reentry packages to set them up for success. But if I don't have that self-commitment from the individual coming out, that individual is going to be right back into the system.
Yeah, well said. And you mentioned the Michigan model a little bit earlier, and I think that that's obviously the gold standard. And right now we have just had the benefit of the governor's workforce strategy plan, which was issued. And we're just starting to digest that. One of the things that I was looking for in that plan, which I don't think is quite developed at all or sufficiently, is this segment of end of termers. Those are returning into the population. So I have asked that group to circle back and to look into that, so that that plan then represents this population as well. And so when you talk about the Michigan model, I would like to introduce them to that, because I think that gives, a real good model to aspire to. Thank you so much, Commissioner. Looking forward to working with you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Kelly?
Thank you, Senator Duff. First, it's really more of a statement than questions. I'd like to congratulate you on your appointment. It's clearly well-deserved after your long and distinguished service to the state of Connecticut and to the populations that you serve. And what I find most striking here is your very practical approach and experience in dealing with this, which I think is a great approach, is to not only have I'm going to say the textbook approach, but also understanding the practical human aspect and the ability to listen. I think that was one thing that I heard in your testimony, and the emphasis and importance of listening. And I think at this time, we need more listening than talking. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for your willingness to serve, and certainly good luck as you move forward.
Thank you, Senator Kelly.
Thank you, Senator. Representative Cresco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to indulge me for one more question. What is the department's protocol for personnel that refuse to wear a mask while on the job?
So we've encountered that situation just one time. And the individual was refusing to wear a mask because of their religious rights, religion. We placed that individual on administrative leave and continue to work with the unions and the HR to ensure compliance with the mask wearing. So out of the 6,000 employees, one individual.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chair. That was a question from a colleague who had texted me. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I have a couple more questions, but before I do that, any other questions from members of the committee at all? Any other questions? I don't see anybody's hand up. Commissioner, I wanted to ask again, because we talked about you said about 50% vaccination potential in your survey for staff. What was it about the same for inmates as well?
The inmates have not started the inmates. The inmates will start on Monday, and we're focusing on that first group, similar to the community, 75 and older, and we have 27 of those individuals. And so far, out of those 27, the majority have opted to take the vaccination. The only data that I have to compare was back in, I want to say, probably September, October, when we went out with the flu shots. I believe only 35% of the population decided to take the flu shot. So then that's where the educational piece, not just with our staff, but with the individuals under custody, was so important for us to get out there and get that face-to-face and answer those questions.
Okay, thank you very much. I would again just reiterate my concern about if only 50% at the moment are willing to be vaccinated of the Department of Corrections staff, that obviously we need to get up to the herd immunity number of somewhere between 70 and 85%, that you would provide a report to legislative leaders and any relevant committee members about a plan if the number is below the herd immunity, because I think it's going to be very important as the vaccines roll out that we do our best, especially with the Department of Corrections, to make sure that we are keeping everybody safe. So if you could just pledge to keep us updated as legislative leaders and as relevant committee members, that you would do that if we stay below the herd immunity number at your department.
We'll do it. Senator, would it be okay for me to send you the information and you share, or do you want me to do my legislative liaison?
I would bet your legislative liaisons would probably prefer to send it out to members of legislative leadership in the relevant committees.
Got it.
Okay. Thank you. I don't see any other questions. Anybody else? No. Okay. And then we don't have any testimony from the public that has been given to us as well to put into the record. So there's no further questions as our typical thing that we ask, Commissioner. Again, want to congratulate you on your appointment as Commissioner. I think you've done a great job, and we certainly appreciate the fact that you've worked up the line and think that you bring a lot of experience to that as well. Unfortunately, those of us in the Senate can't vote for you because it's a House resolution, but we do want to congratulate you nonetheless and appreciate how you have worked through up the ladder through your career in the state and your personal story and how you shared that with all of us, for sure. We have one question we ask of every nominee. Is there anything in your past that you believe might prove embarrassing to this committee, to the governor, or to the state of Connecticut?
No.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, and we appreciate it. With that, Madam Clerk, I think we will end our public hearing.
Thank you.
Okay, and why don't we, at this point, we can convene the committee meeting. The commissioner. It's our only item of business that we have right now. I think we can dispense on any kind of remarks from the chairs at this point. And we have under number 3, 1, we have a resolution confirming Angel Quiros Jr. of Windsor to be the Commissioner of Correction, and only House member can nominate and second the nomination, and our clerk will call just House members on the roll.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Moved by Representative Vargas, seconded by Representative Kennedy. And Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please? And you have to be on screen to vote, I guess, right?
Correct.
Your House member, yep.
Gresco,
Gresco votes yes.
Quinn,
Quinn votes yes.
Kennedy,
Kennedy votes yes.
D'Agostino, Godfrey,
Godfrey votes yes.
Perillo,
Perillo votes yes.
Yacarino. You're muted, sir.
David, you're muted.
You have to unmute yourself.
Sorry, Yacarino votes yes. Thank you.
Vargas,
Vargas votes yes.
all set.
Okay, why don't we hold the meeting open for members who may need to still vote. It's almost 12 now, so why don't we say 2 o'clock? Would that work? Does that work, Mr. Chair? Representative Gresco?
It works for me.
Okay, so we'll hold it open till 2 o'clock. All right, Madam Clerk, do we have a date and time for our next meeting?
Yes. There will be a public hearing followed by a committee meeting on Thursday, February 4th. 3 nominees for State Board of Education.
Okay, great. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Be safe.
You too.
Take care.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and be safe, everyone.
Thank you. We'll recess the meeting.